About 270. What's up, Nerfers, and welcome back to my channel, where I test blasters like this one outdoors in real world conditions to bring you the results that I want to know. This is the X-Shot Longshot, a budget bullpup manual springer covered in Slamfire decals, available for 35 bald eagles at Target in the US of A. This one here was sent to me thanks to Derek at Frontline Foam as a special request, but I have seen these on the Australian Amazon for 114 kangaroos a piece. Personally, I'm quite a fan of bullpups. They allow you to have a really long barrel while keeping the overall length of the thing quite short. That makes it very versatile for playing in CQB or long-range sniping. Like a lot of these X-Shot Longshots, straight out of the box, velocities were all over the place. Mine shot a high of 175, low of 138, average of 154, with a horrendous standard deviation of 12. There's a pretty big reason a lot of these perform so poorly out of the box, and if you can guess what it is, comment down below. But for about 20 minutes of effort, I upgraded it to hit just below 300 FPS. Let's take a look at the parts I used. Alright, I'm just going to quickly go over all of the different mod parts. Starting from Frontline Foam, I have the 40cm barrel with a 12.9mm internal diameter. To hold that in place, we have a 3D printed plastic muzzle. Next we have a polished, I believe this is brass plunger tube. A lot of people had been receiving their plastic see-through plunger tube with a crack in it. Mine doesn't look to have one in it, but this being a smoother material may also bump the FPS a tiny bit. Frontline Foam have also sent a pre-cut Pro 25 spring. Finally, Frontline Foam have sent two slightly thicker O-rings to match with this new plunger tube to give a better air seal than the stock blaster has. And finally, from Sabre, who make the Apex Prime and M20 blasters, they've sent me a fully CNC metal pusher and priming bar, which should make the prime buttery smooth. And I'm guessing this just reuses the stock O-ring because there was no O-ring included with it. Okay, so just opening this thing up, I have noticed my plunger tube does have two cracks in it. Something I couldn't actually see from the outside of the blaster. That could explain the low numbers I saw of about 140 FPS. I think if you have an intact plunger tube, you can probably expect more around 170s. The stock barrel did indeed end inside of the blaster. There's no way to add a B-car or a SCAR to this blaster out of the box. With this new barrel, it extends enough past the muzzle that you could easily add any kind of rifling you like. And if you wanted to change the barrel for some reason, you could easily just undo this nut here and pull the barrel out. Just a threaded nut at the front which holds the barrel in place like a clamp. As I showed you just before, the stock plunger tube did have two cracks in it for me. The stock spring is tiny indeed. The Pro 25 has a lot of pre-compression, you can see on it right now, and it's a lot thicker coils to the spring as well, so way more power. If we come to the priming bar, I removed this ratcheting piece. It just makes unnecessary noise when you're priming it. This blaster should be a lot quieter overall when you cock it now. It's also way stronger of a material, metal versus plastic, so it should be a lot smoother of a prime as well. And it did indeed just take the O-ring from the stock one and whack it on the metal one. If you're modding this yourself, just take a look at the picture here and you'll be able to see where everything goes. So it's pretty simple to upgrade this thing. You can just buy the upgrade kit and put it in. It takes about 20 minutes tops, and the longest part is simply undoing all the screws and then doing them back up again at the end. Luckily though, they're all the exact same type, so you don't have to worry about where each different size goes. Frontline Foam's upgrade kit costs $62 US, Sabre's priming bar costs $58, and combined they both add up to $120 US, which is 3.5 times the base price of the blaster. So is it worth it? Well, that's what I'll be answering today. Up front, it now has enough barrel sticking out to add some rifling, so I've opted for Saber's B-Car since it's the most accurate one on the market at the moment. It has 30 bearings total in 5 groups of 6, and it attaches to the barrel using 4 grub screws at the base. The angled foregrip the Longshot comes with attaches to a Picatinny rail underneath. That pick rail is very wobbly indeed, probably the worst of any injection molded blaster I've ever used, and swapping out the grip unfortunately isn't going to improve that because it's the rail itself that's flimsy. Speaking of things that are flimsy, X-Shot have gone incredibly thin with the plastic of the entire blaster. The easiest way to demonstrate that is to simply look at the side-to-side wobble of the top Picatinny rail once you attach any form of a real sight to it. There's a reason this blaster is $35, it's missing half of the plastic. Taking a look at the grip, it's your standard AR shape, making it quite comfortable to hold. It too has a lot of side-to-side flex, just like the front grip does, and in combination with it, it makes the prime feel much worse than I'm used to. That's even with the upgraded Saber metal priming bar installed. The trigger pull has a little slack to take up. Then you hit a wall where it flexes and creaks until the point that it fires. Not at all a nice hair trigger like the Worker Harrier, for example. Above the trigger there's a safety. Pushing it in from the left is safe and there's a little closed padlock symbol to let you know. Pushing it in from the right is fire with an open padlock to represent that. Just behind the safety though is probably the most ingenious thing about the entire blaster. It has a forward positioned ambi mag release, and this dumps the mag itself rather than the adapter that holds the half-length mag in. While it is a strange choice to even have full-length dart compatibility and therefore require a mag adapter, the fact it even has a forward mag release linked to the rear is something you don't see on any other Bullpup Nerf designs like the Lynx. Definitely a nice feature to have. In the box, you get both a full-length mag, a half-length mag, and a half-length mag adapter. The mags can be inserted at any time, and the adapter is even Worker Talon compatible. With 15-round Talons, you don't even need to hit the mag release at all. You can just pull them straight out like in the good old days. But if you do hit the mag release, they'll gravity drop for those tactical reloads. 18-round curved Talons oddly can't just be pulled out. I did need to hit the mag release for those ones. And for a quick side note, the included full-length mag, much like the Talon adapter itself, that doesn't interface with the forward mag release at all. Instead, you do have to use a rear paddle for the full-length mags. Unfortunately, like other Bullpup Nerf springers, this thing has Slamfire. Even though a relatively small percentage of you actually like that feature, it unfortunately means that this cannot be deprimed unless you of course load in a dart and then fire the blaster. However, I don't think the way that the Bullpups are currently designed allows for anything other than Slamfire. So if you want a Bullpup like this, or even a Lynx or a Slinx, you're kind of stuck with it. Just for comparison's sake, I'm going to do 3 Slamfire shots and then 3 non-Slamfire, just to see how quickly both are. And now the non-Slamfire. Still pretty quick without it, and that is why most people don't honestly want it. Coming to the back of the blaster, the stock can be pulled out to slightly extend it by 35mm. Handy for users with longer arms. And there's a button on the bottom to collapse it back down again. Also in the box, X-Shot included some of their own take on both full-length darts and half-length darts. They're standard in weight, so they're not trying to fake the Chrono numbers like some of their competitors do. When I gave their darts a try though, the full-lengths averaged around 170 FPS, but about half of them just didn't want to feed into the tighter upgraded barrel. Instead, they'd get folded over in the breech and I'd have to unjam the blaster with the fold-open jam door. And some of the darts were just completely ruined. The half-lengths average around 275 FPS, and while they would all chamber, about half of those shot out at a much lower velocity, only making it halfway to the 30-meter target, and that's not a long range. I suspect there's some quality control issues at X-Shot's end, most likely variations in the diameter of the foam, with the larger ones having trouble fitting inside the upgraded barrel. I also noticed after only firing them once, the leading edge of the foam on the bag bad darts that went short, was getting pretty cut up, giving further evidence to the idea that they just didn't want to fit inside the barrel. While it's a pity I couldn't properly compare them against worker darts, they appeared to be just cheap knockoffs of Adventure Force Pros anyway, which in themselves aren't exactly the best design. So here's a chrono test with worker half lengths instead.
273, 269, 268, 270, 273, 267, 266, 261, 264, 268, 274, 279, 271, 292, 291, and that's all 15 of the workers.
With worker darts, it shot a high of 292, low of 261, average of 272 with a standard deviation of 8. Considering that's with a Saber B-car attached, which does lower velocity a little, that's not really bad performance at all. About on par with the worker Harrier actually. With the B-car removed, it shot back up to around 300 FPS, but that's cheating, so I'm not going to show you that. Instead, it's time now for the 30-meter accuracy test.
15 worker bamboos. Let's see how these go. Hit. 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 I think they hit the white cardboard above. Hit. That was right on the bullseye. Hit. Hit. That one just fell short of the target to the bottom right. Hit. Short and just missed hitting the cinder block by a tiny fraction. Hit. Just short to the bottom right. Hit. That's all 15.
Shown in red at a distance of 30 meters, worker darts shot a spread 1.5 meters tall and 50 centimeters wide, largely due to 3 darts that landed short of the target entirely, giving it in the end a pretty tall spread for a Nerf Springer, though the width wasn't all that bad. Comparing it to the worker Harrier in purple, which was even using worker's less than ideal plastic rifling, I'd say the Harrier edges out the Longshot here, and I think that's definitely a fair comparison to make because the Harrier only costs a tiny bit more than this fully modded Longshot does, making it quite a solid alternative. If you'd rather compare it with another Bullpup, the Slinks I tested a couple of months ago shown in yellow was even better than both of these. It's also far more sturdy of a design even though it's 3D printed, though you'd obviously need access to a printer to build one of these for yourself. Although I did see Kimchi has made a couple now for commission. Overall, as far as accuracy goes, I think the flimsiness of the Longshot hinders it a little compared to more solid offerings like the Harrier. There is also one other issue I experienced though. Pretty early on into the Longshot gameplay, I noticed my shots just weren't going as far as they should be. It was only later that I discovered my pusher O-ring had come completely off, which is probably why this guy didn't feel the hit. With no pusher O-ring and thus no air seal whatsoever, the FPS was now down to an average of 190, which is surprisingly still higher than the stock blaster, but not at all ideal for a 300 FPS event. My best guess is that this happened during a dart jam. The X-Shot Longshot has no dart stop at the top of the mag lips, so occasionally a dart can end up where it shouldn't be, especially if you leave the breech open for long periods. When I got home, I simply replaced that O-ring with a smaller but thicker one, which should hold on tighter than the stock O-ring that came with the blaster. Despite that mishap and all the results of my testing, I still think the X-Shot Longshot, particularly in its stock form, is a very good blaster for the price. $35 for a 170 FPS Springer, assuming you don't get one with a cracked plunger tube that is definitely a bargain. Is it worth spending 3.5 times that to upgrade it with the drop-in component shown in the video? Honestly, I don't think it is. A Worker Harrier is a far sturdier and far more reliable platform for a similar price tag, and there's also other bullpup alternatives such as the Lynx or Slinks which are far nicer to use, assuming you know someone with a 3D printer. The only way that you could get the X-Shot Longshot to a point where I would actually want to use it is with even more modifications. For example, filling all of the parts with epoxy to stop it being so damn flimsy. And at that point, I have just one question for you. Why not just get something better in the first place? But maybe you like the challenge of modding something, a part of the hobby we don't see too often these days with all the pre-built blasters and drop-in kits. I would love to know what you guys think, so please leave a comment down below, because that's all I have time for today. Give this video a like or a dislike to let me know what you thought of it. Here's 2 other ones that you might enjoy, and as always, thank you very much for watching. See ya!